I'm Neve Campbell.
And I'm Courtney Cox.
And welcome to Woodsboro. Just kidding. Welcome to the Morgue.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Mal. And if you didn't already realize, this week we are covering Scream from 1996. But before that, we just want to make a couple of announcements. The first one is we have listener support. If you were here last episode, I went ahead and mentioned it. Listener support is kind of like donations. It's a monthly sort of pledge to us. It's only if you really want to do it. If you don't want to do it, that's fine too, if you just want to listen. But if you want to support us, you can either do listener support or follow us on all social media. And that is in our link tree, which is located in the little description below this episode.
Also below this episode, we have a poll going for subscriptions. We're thinking about starting basically just a subscription where we would release bonus episodes that were just other movies besides horror or true crime, just things like that, or just like talking episodes, whatever. But if you're interested, go vote yes on the poll.
Yes, and like she said, that poll is located on our last episode, the People Under the Stairs episode. It's at the very bottom, and that's going to be running for another week. And then the last thing is we have an announcement, a big announcement coming next episode. So be sure to tune in next week because you will not want to miss it. Scream is a 1996 film written by Kevin Williamson and directed by Wes Craven. The story is partially based on a killer named Danny Rolling, aka the Gainesville Ripper. I'm pretty sure Morbid has a really good episode on that, so go check out the Morbid podcast and go listen to that episode. Like I said, the Gainesville Ripper. This is Editing Mal, and I would just like to say that I am a goddamn liar. There is no Morbid episode on the Gainesville Ripper, Danny Rolling. I guess I dreamt it or imagined it or listened to it on another podcast or YouTube episode. But yeah, there's no episode. Ash and Elena, if you're listening, or anyone that knows them, please do an episode on it because it's a crazy case. Like, that he kept it really, really, really fucking weird. So, yeah. Anyways, back to the show. Rolling was convicted for murdering 5 students in Gainesville, Florida in August of 1990, and then he later confessed to committing a triple homicide in Shreveport, Louisiana, and then Rolling was sentenced to death and executed by lethal injection in 2006. Well, in 1994, Kevin Williamson watched a documentary on Rolling, and the next day, after being awakened by a nightmare, he wrote the outline for the opening scene of Scream. And then he spent the next 3 days writing the script for what he called Scary Movie, the original title for Scream, which was later reused in the horror spoof we all know and love, Scary Movie.
Scream stars Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott, Courtney Cox as... Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers, David Arquette as Dewey Riley, Skeet Ulrich as Billy Loomis, Rose McGowan as Tatum Riley, Matthew Lillard as Stu Mocker, and Drew Barrymore as Casey Becker.
Filming took place from April to June of 1996 in California on a budget of, what I read on Wikipedia, $15 million, but then I read on IMDb $14 million, so within that $14 to $15 million budget.
15, yeah.
Before the movie could be released, however, Wes Craven had to trim down lots of gore in the movie due to conflict with the MPAA over the desired R rating that he wanted, which, girl, have you ever seen any of the, like, NC-17 version of it?
No, I haven't.
So there's a few scenes that you can actually find probably on YouTube. I've seen it in YouTube videos, but there's a lot of like little videos and stuff that will show like the lingering shots that they had to like cut down, like For example, there's one at the beginning whenever Steve is like all tied up and stuff and then he gets gutted, like the shot lingers on him for so much longer, and I'm pretty sure like part of his intestines fall out. Like, it's really cool.
They should have kept it in.
I think they should have kept it in, but I understand why Craven wanted that R rating, because if you have NC-17, then it doesn't get released to as many theaters. So, but they should make a director's cut. Why haven't they came out with the director's cut?
Right.
They need to do that. Yo, Wes Craven's estate, if you're the one that owns it, I don't know who owns this, Dimension Films. Hey, go ahead and release a director's cut. Unless,
please,
obviously those scenes were like, you know, quote unquote lost, but make a director's cut. They eventually, Wes Craven and the MPAA eventually came to an agreement, and Scream was released in the U.S. on December 20th, 1996, with a runtime of 1 hour and 51 minutes, or 111 minutes. No. And it had an opening weekend box office of, this is so crazy to me, 6.3 million. But then the gross worldwide, that is so hard to say, skyrocketed to $173 million.
Dang.
Like, imagine, you're making a movie for like 14 or 15 million. The first opening weekend in the US, it only makes not even 7 million. Like, not even half of what your budget was. But then all of a sudden, it just skyrockets. Like,
as it should. It's
as
worth
it should.
This is a vape ASMR. Welcome to ASMR Hour with Mal and Hannah. Bruh, why did you let your paper fall? That was rude. I'm so sorry. I have a rainbow candy elf bar. Let's try it. It is so yummy. Delicious. This has been ASMR with Mal and Hannah. Back to the show.
We open with the title card. Sorry, I was...
that was
that good?
Very enthusiastic.
Okay, I did that. If y'all don't watch Kill Count, which is something I need to get you on, I was, like, you know, getting out my inner James A. Janice, you know, so...
We did do a kill count for this movie.
So, we open with the title card and a scream. Ah! And
that was a horrible scream.
That was awful. That was more like a yell. But I'm not going to scream. We're in an apartment. I don't want the police to be called, you know?
Right. And we say, sorry, we're just doing a horror movie podcast.
Yeah, we're just doing a podcast. It's all good. We're just screaming for the microphone, you know?
Right after our ASMR segment.
So the phone is ringing and the woman answers, and we learn that that's Casey Becker, and that's played by the gorgeous Drew Barrymore. And I literally remember watching this movie when I was little, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Drew Barrymore! Yay, we love her!
Can we talk about her hair for a second? Because I liked it.
I liked it. Whenever I was younger, I hated it, but like as I've gotten older...
I think she pulls it off
so
well.
Oh yeah, and I'm pretty sure she is a natural blonde too.
Yeah.
And it just looks really good.
She looks so 80s, like just...
Like so just 90s, not even 80s. Yeah, 90s.
She looks like the outfit, everything.
The little sweater
so cute.
and the little like pajama pants looking pants. Like, oh yeah. I'm here for it. And so the voice on the other end, which that is the most sexiest and most seductive voice I have ever heard. Like Roger L. Jackson, not my taste.
Hello.
He's like, hello. I can't do it. I can't do it. But y'all know what I'm talking about. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. He asks, who is this? And Casey says that he has the wrong number. And the caller ends up calling back, and Casey, of course, answers. And he apologizes for calling the wrong number. And
She'd be flirting with him.
Yes, they were up there flirting a little bit. And he says he wants to talk, but Casey dismisses him. And there's this beautiful exterior shot of the house. And that house, it just makes my little soul so happy.
So pretty.
And I've tried to recreate it on The Sims so many times. And I just can't get it right. And it makes me very upsetty spaghetti. Casey's making some Jiffy Pop. Fucking yum. Have you ever had Jiffy Pop?
No.
Dude, I'm gonna have to make you Jiffy Pop. It's so fire.
Please.
You can get it at Walmart. Like, a lot of people are like, what's the hype about Jiffy Pop? It just tastes better. Like, the microwave stuff is fine, but it just tastes so much better on the stove. And the phone rings again. And, of course, it's Mr. Sexy Voice. And he asks why she doesn't want to talk to him. And he ends up asking, like, what she's doing. And she says that she's making popcorn and that she's about to watch a video, which is so 90s. Instead of saying watching a movie.
My thing is, like, why does she keep answering?
Well, at this point, it's not
calling,
weird. At this point, it's not that weird.
But even when it gets weird, like, why does she keep answering?
I wonder that.
Like, I would be throwing my phone out the window.
Right. I would... If possible, because I would assume that they have, like, multiple phone lines in the house.
Right.
Back in the 90s, what you could do, or, like, whenever you had just, like, a landline that was a cord landline, you can just take it off the hook, and it'll just be, like, the dial tone, and nobody would be able to get through.
So I would have done that and locked all my doors and locked all my windows.
But, let's see. She says that she's about to watch a video, and he asks, what's your favorite scary movie? And she says Halloween, which is also my favorite scary movie. Love that. And she guesses his, and he says Nightmare on Elm Street. And it's kind of funny because she's like, yeah, the first one was good, but the rest sucked. Which was kind of a nod because Wes Craven was only, like, involved with the first one up until
I love that
New
they
Nightmare.
put that in.
Yes, up until New Nightmare, which was, I believe, after this. Or maybe it was, like, right before it. I could be wrong. I don't fucking know, but... Anyways, he asks, do you have a boyfriend? And she says, no. It sounds like that TikTok sound. You know what TikTok sound I'm talking about? And it has that fucking song in the background. I don't know. I forgot the name of the song.
I don't know what the song is, but I know what you're talking about. No.
So, do you have a boyfriend?
No.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
Because I want to know who I'm looking at.
What?
I want to know who I'm talking to. That?
No!
That used to always scare me so bad.
No.
Oh.
You can't switch up like that after saying I want to know who I'm looking at.
I want to know who I'm looking at. What? I want to know who I'm talking to. Even whenever I was like 5 or 6 years old watching this movie, I was like, no, he didn't say that the first time. Like,
girl, I would have evaporated.
Exactly. I would have, like, literally ran around, made sure all my doors were locked, and then I'm going and hiding in my fucking closet. Like, no, we're not doing that. And so, homegirl is now scared at this point. The popcorn is burning up, which makes me so sad because that's some fire-ass popcorn. And he calls again.
She gets gutted and Mal's sad about the popcorn.
Yes, I am sad about the popcorn. And he ends up calling again, and she answers, and he says that he wants to talk. She hangs up, but he calls again, and she answers.
Quit answering!
But this is the part where she's just like, listen, asshole! And he says, listen here, you little bitch. You hang up on me again, and I'm gonna gut you like a fish. Understand? As you can tell, I've seen this movie way too many times. I could quote it every single line by line.
And she did when we watched it.
You know what? I was mouthing it, okay? But I'm gonna spare y'all from my whole rendition of this movie and just do, like, the main quotes. That scares her, and she finally hangs up and goes to lock all of... Well, nope, scratch that. That scares her. She goes to lock all of the doors, and then she's still on the phone. And she's like, I'm gonna call the police. And he says...
Don't tell him you're gonna, just do it.
Literally. He says that they'll never make it in time because, of course, they're out in the middle of fucking nowhere, which is another reason why I would never live out in the middle of nowhere. And then he says he wants to see what her insides look like. She hangs up. And she's crying at this point. And I'm like, girlfriend, I would have already just been on the phone with the cops. Like, I don't care if you think they're not going to make it in time. I'm still calling the cops. And someone's ringing the doorbell.
Right,
and
like he's kinky and scary at this moment.
Right. Ooh. Someone rings the doorbell. And she says, who's there? And the phone rings again as she's like, I'm calling the police.
Girl, like, who you think it is?
And of course she answers. And she says that you should leave or else my boyfriend's gonna be here. And he's like, you said you didn't have a boyfriend. And she says, I lied and he's big and he plays football and he'll kick the shit out of you. And then Ghostface the caller is like, his name wouldn't be Steve, would it? Dun dun dun. And so
she freaking out.
Homegirl's scared. She really, really scared. And she goes over to the window because he's like, go to the patio and turn on the lights. And she goes over there and Steve is all tied up outside. He beat the fuck up. And the person on the phone is like, I want to play a game. Who are you, fucking Jigsaw? Like,
right, like, what are you doing?
And she's like, what kind of a game? And he's like, turn off the patio lights and we'll play the game. So she turns them off. Dumb as fuck. And he says, this is a warm-up question. Who was the killer in Halloween? Which, bitch, that's supposed to be your favorite fucking scary movie. How do you not know that it's Michael Myers? So she says Michael Myers. I forgot that
she
does say Michael Myers.
Okay, I thought for a second she got it wrong. And
that was the warm-up question.
Okay.
And so then they go to the real question. And he says, who was the killer in Friday the 13th? And this is where she's like, Jason, Jason, Jason. And it's like, no, bitch, you're wrong. If you are a horror buff, you know that it's Pamela Voorhees. Like, it's literally Jason's mother. Like, come on now. She's like, I saw that movie 20 goddamn times. No, you didn't. You watched the sequels 20 goddamn times.
You just spoiled it for me.
I'm sorry. It says it in the movie. Like, damn.
No, I know.
Let's see. Okay, and so at that point, Steve is dead. He gets fucking gutted.
Like, she turns the lights back on, and I love that scene. Because it's like, lights on, lights off. Lights on, dead.
Dead. Just straight up, like I said earlier, guts falling out. He been done sliced up, right? And then the caller says, you have one more question, and if you answer, you live. What door am I at? Which, if you've seen this movie, you know that's a trick question. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's a trick question.
Thinking about who it is just cracks me up. After watching the movie and finding out at the end, I just, like, all the deaths and all the, like...
And it's kind of funny because sometimes whenever, like, Ghostface, like, the person's fighting back, you can kind of hear, like, grunts and stuff. And I swear on everything, they just, like, added them in, like, post. And you can kind of hear who it is a little bit. Yes. At least in the first one. I don't know. I can't really... I need to go back and watch the other ones, but at least in the first one.
When you see him run. When you see him, like, sprint through the house, it's so funny.
I'm going to suggest a video for you. And if you guys want to watch it as well, it's through Zach Cherry on YouTube. And he does a lot of horror movie content. And I think it was maybe a couple years ago, he did a video that was... showing, like, who was the kill, like, who was moving around where during specifically the opening scene, I'm pretty sure. That sounded like it hurt really bad.
That hurt.
She just hit her elbow. Ouch.
But on it shows... edge of my laptop and the bench. Okay.
But the video shows who was doing what in the opening scene. And so it's really interesting because it's like, okay, I really didn't think about that. And so the trick question, what door am I at? And she's like, I don't know. And a chair comes through the window that she's, like, sitting by, or the door that she's sitting by. And she screams, she runs to the kitchen, grabs a knife. The fucking popcorn is literally on fire, which still makes me very sad. Like, homegirl, at least turn off the burner. Like, come on now. And she's looking around, and the masked figure is now inside of the house. Casey goes outside where she kind of sees her parents, like, driving in the distance, and she kind of, like, goes towards the front of the house. She's crawling around, but then Ghostface sees her and, like, gets her through the window, and she punches him with the phone, that big-ass fucking cordless phone. I've never in my life had a cordless phone that was that thick. Like, damn.
I never had a cordless phone.
You you never had a house phone before?
I did have a house phone, but not the corded kind. It's on the little stand and you pick it up.
Yeah, a cordless phone. That's a cordless phone.
I was thinking cord. Never mind.
I have had cord phones.
I was thinking cord.
My grandma.
When you say cordless, I think of the cord on the phone.
My grandma used to have one of those phones that like hung up in the wall on the kitchen, and it had one of those long ass cords, so you could walk around basically the whole entire house with the fucking phone on from the wall. Like, it was crazy long, and I remember being little, and like I remember you would like take it off and the numbers would glow green. Like, it was so freaking 90s, but like the cord on it was super duper long, and like my grandma would be on it and she would like walk to the fucking den and just still be on the phone. I'm like, oh my God, that is a long ass phone cord. So he gets punched in the face by the fucking phone, and Casey starts running, but he ends up jumping out the window and getting her, right? And she gets a knife to the chest, and the parents are like walking up, and she like tries to scream for them but can't because I think like her windpipe was like crushed or something, her esophagus, voice box, whatever. She can't scream, and she ends up getting got. And as the parents enter the house, they see that it's in disarray, that the fucking popcorn's on fire, and the dad's like, call the police, and the mom gets on the phone, and she can hear Casey on the other end like gurgling and shit, which is so messed up in my opinion.
Very messed up.
Like, imagine you're trying to like call the police for a loved one, and on the other end you just hear fucking gurgling. And like, that's another scary thing about having landlines. Is that you could try to call the police, but the other line might be just like off the hook and you can't. And so the mom's like, I can hear her. And the dad's like, just drive down to the McKenzie's, which is pays homage to Halloween, by the way. Well, you'll see that whenever we watch Halloween. Drive down to the McKenzie's, tell them to call the police. And so the mom walks outside, and there's Casey strung up on a tree, in the words of Stu, completely hollowed out. And she screams, and it's big flash, and we transition. And so we transition to Sydney's bedroom, and she is typing away on that old ass computer. And Billy scares her by coming in through the window, which is creepy as fuck. And the dad knocks on the door, Neil. And Sydney's door is barricaded by the closet door. And so you guys remember that shit. And so Sydney's dad explains that he's going out of town and that he's going to bed. And he's like, this is where I'll be. This is what I should get there, blah, blah, blah. And so Sydney shuts the door, and Billy pops out, and they chit-chat for a little bit. It's a little bit boring. And he talks about basically how he wants to get his dick wet. And Sydney's all young and innocent, and she don't need to be fucking anyways. So they make out. They make out a little bit. They're grinding on each other, and she's like, we're not gonna do that. And as he's leaving out the window, she's like, can we settle for a PG-13 relationship? And he's like, what's that? It's titties. That's all it is. And I'm upset.
And not really.
I'm upset because we don't see the titties. And the fact that this is an R-rated movie and we don't get a single pair of titties in the whole thing, but she's like, settle for a PG-13 relationship. Here, show my titties. This is an R-rated movie. Show us the titties too. I'm just saying.
Hashtag free the titties.
Hashtag free the titties. And so the next day, Sydney arrives to school, and it is absolute fucking chaos. She finds Tatum, her bestie.
I love Tatum.
Tatum's the best. Justice for Tatum. And Tatum explains that Casey and Steve were literally murdered the night before, and Sydney ends up going to class, and they call her to the office to be interviewed because they're interviewing the entire school to see if they can find a lead suspect or whatever. And there we meet Dewey, which is Tatum's brother, and he's also the deputy of the police department. So Deputy Dewey, we love him. They go to lunch. I love how we go to lunch. We all go to lunch. And the gang is all there. It's Billy, Sydney, Tatum, Stu, and Randy. And they're discussing all of the murders. And Billy and Stu are giving each other some weird ass looks. And I'm just like,
yes, they are.
We gotta note that. You know what I'm saying? We're trying to figure out who doing this shit. They giving each other weird ass looks.
My first guess because Mal was having me guess as we were watching it. My first guess, I believe, was Stu. And I also thought Randy was suspicious, like, at different points. But I never, for some reason, I was never suspicious of Billy.
We do end up learning that Stu dated Casey. And Tatum says that he was with her that night whenever Randy's, up there questioning, well, where were you? And she's like, he was with me. And Tatum's like, where were you last night? And he said, working. And she was like, oh, at the video store? I thought they fired your sorry ass. And he says, twice. Which is so funny to me.
I love that part.
Why would you hire someone that you've done fired twice? They must really need some help. But also, this is the 90s. Everyone wanted to work at a video store.
Also, Randy knew just about everything. They probably just needed him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. And so then, okay. And so they're discussing, why, what questions they were being asked and stuff. And Stu goes, it takes a man to do something like that.
I love Stu.
I'm just going to name off some iconic lines from this because I don't have a lot of notes of, what they're actually saying. But, the iconic lines was that. And then whenever Randy goes, did you really put her liver in the mailbox? Because I heard they found her liver in the mailbox next to her spleen and her pancreas. And it's the way that he says it. And then
it's so funny.
Stu is like, you better leave her alone. Leave her alone. It's so funny. That shit used to have me and my sister dying.
And Sydney, that I would be cackling, even if it was out of pocket. But Sydney's over there just pouting. Which I get it.
So there's one point whenever Sydney's like, how do you gut someone? And Stu is like, well, you rip them from groin to sternum. And then Billy's like, it's called tact, you fuck rag. Because you have to remember, her mama was murdered. But we don't know that yet. We don't really know that yet. But her mama was, brutally murdered, so I can understand why she wasn't laughing.
Yes,
okay.
But also, just leave her alone.
Leave her alone.
That's... I would have laughed.
I would have been cackling.
That sounds awful. I know it's, the day after, but just coming from Stu also...
But also, her mama been dead for almost a whole year,
Didn't he do the tongue thing then, too?
Oh, that... Yes.
If you don't know what that is, go look up a video, because I hadn't even seen the movie, and I knew what that was before.
Yes, it's the tongue meme thing with Stu.
Stu's tongue.
Matthew Lillard. Matthew Lillard, baby. I'll let you, girl.
He killed this role.
Yes, he did.
Don't be cheating on Tony right now.
No, I still love my man Tony. Tony's still my number
one. I know
one.
you subscribed after that after Candyman.
Right, Tony Todd, if you're out there listening, I love you. You're still my number one. But Matthew Lillard, boy, baby. Hey, you're a little bit closer to my age. You get what I'm saying? So Sydney ends up going home, and it's yet another gorgeous fucking house. This was literally my dream goals. That house. Ugh. And she talks to Tatum on the phone, and Tatum tells her that she's going to pick her up at 7 so she can spend the night while her dad is gone. And she goes to pack a bag, and she watches a little bit of TV, and we learn that her mother was raped and murdered last year, which is why she's all, sensitive and shit. And basically that these murders were just as bad. Sydney turns off the TV and she takes a little nappy nap. And I just want to mention, I have it in my notes right here, the interior of this house is so 90s, but I always wanted a house like this.
Yes, it's so iconic.
And the thing that always gets me with rich people, because I'm definitely not rich, but rich people like that, they have 2 living rooms. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, one living room, it's like, one is like a TV room. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's like a living room and a den, like that.
If y'all give us listener support, maybe we could have 2 living rooms to record in.
Yeah, yeah. Or we could have like an actual studio space. Right. I'm going to go on a little tangent real quick. I want one of those little like she shed things, but it to be an actual like studio space.
We need a studio.
Yes, so if you're listening.
If you want better audio.
Yes, if you want better audio, we need a studio, you know. It'll be a little bit less echoey. I noticed that it's a bit echoey. Just a little bit, but it would be like way less echoey.
And you won't hear Hazel snoring.
Yes, and then like you won't hear
Hazel snoring ASMR.
That's so cute.
This is Hazel snoring ASMR. That was Hazel snoring ASMR. Back to the show.
I have it in my notes on here. Sydney. Sydney wakes up from her nap.
And Courtney Cox.
Yeah, I put Courtney Cox with a K. Sorry, not sorry. I was typing really fast. So Sydney wakes up from her nap and she talks to Tatum on the phone, and Tatum's running a little bit late, but on her way in, she's going to stop by the video store, and Sydney ends up hanging up the phone, and she just kind of like lays there for a second just to like completely wake up. The phone rings and she thought it was Tatum again, but actually it's Mr. Seductive Voice again.
Hi, Sydney.
Hi, Sydney.
Hi, Sydney.
And she thinks it's Randy toying around with her, so she's like, you know what, I'm gonna toy around with you. And he asks why she doesn't like scary movies, and she says that the killer is always stalking some big-breasted chick who always ends up running upstairs when she should be running out the front door, and it's insulting. The way that Hannah's looking at me every single time I quote this movie.
It's so funny.
And so Sydney goes outside and asks if he could see her right now and what is she doing, which she was picking her nose. I found that really funny.
It was funny.
And she goes to hang up, and the caller says that if she hangs up, she will die just like her mother. And she closes and locks the door. When she closes and locks the door, boom! Ghosty surprises her from the closet. That shit used to always scare me. I'm like, I don't want no type of hot closet. Jump scare, motherfucker. And they get in a bit of a tussle.
A beautiful tussle.
Sydney gets the upper hand, and she runs upstairs to hide in her room, and she barricades the door. Remember the barricade? Yeah, she barricades the door.
If you forgot the barricade.
Yeah, there's a barricade. And she uses the interwebs to, like, text the police. White woman in trouble. If you've ever seen Scary Movie, you know what I'm talking about.
White girl in trouble. Give me a call.
Have you ever seen Scary Movie?
No.
Okay, so Scary Movie, I don't know if we're going to put it on, like, the main feed or if and when we do subscriptions.
Subscribe.
But we're definitely going to be covering Scary Movie, and you'll understand why I said white woman in trouble.
We're also going to be covering white chicks on the subscription.
Oh, for sure.
So go vote yes on the poll.
Yes, just
right now.
Go vote yes.
Pause the episode. Go vote yes, and then come back.
Because I have so many movies on my list of shit that we're going to be watching, y'all, that aren't horror. Like, I'm not just a horror movie connoisseur. I'm a connoisseur of all movies, but horror is just, like, my main.
And we got real good true crime stuff to put on there.
When I tell y'all I have a list, I have a long-ass list. Y'all just wait. Go over there and vote fucking yes.
We'll wait. Go right now.
I'm waiting.
If you didn't hit yes by now, just leave.
Yes, just leave.
We don't want you here. Actually, we do. We want
everyone here. We want everyone here. Don't leave. We love you. So, Billy then climbs through the window, and Sydney's all upset and shit, and he's up there comforting her. Oh my God, I'm here. It's gonna be okay.
I'm here, baby.
And a cell phone falls out of this man's pocket. And this was back in the 90s. People did not carry cell phones, cellular devices as they called them. They didn't carry them like they do now. And so she's like, well, what the fuck?
Why do you have a cellular telephone?
Why do you have a cellular telephone? And she runs downstairs, and whenever she opens up the door, it's fucking Dewey, but he's holding like the mask I'm like, you stupid motherfucker. But I love Dewey. But he do be acting like a dumbass sometimes.
I love Dewey so much. He is quite possibly my favorite character so far, and I've watched the first 3.
Yes.
Dewey and Sydney have my heart.
You want to know who my favorite character is?
Gale.
No.
Wait. Shoot, what's the name? Kenny.
No, but you're close.
The other one, the other cameraman.
Joel, it will forever be my favorite.
Joel.
Whenever we get to the second Scream next week, y'all are going to just hear how much love I have for Joel. He was so fucking smart.
Joel is so smart.
I love that man.
Everyone be like Joel. Stay safe out there.
Exactly. And so Billy gets arrested, and Gail Weathers shows up, and Sydney is taken to the police station, and Gail asks Kenny, ask Kenny to come film for her, and she says, "Jesus, the camera, hurry!" And he says,
"My name is not Jesus." Had that in my notes. I just put "my name's not Jesus" underlined. Okay, first, can we talk about if you watch Friends, they apparently were hesitant to hire Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers because she was playing Monica on Friends, who we love. We love Monica. If you don't love Monica, go love Monica. They didn't know if she could be that much of a bitch because Gail's a bitch. And so they were hesitant to hire. What is going on?
I was trying to find my vape.
She over here.
Okay, people that smoke vapes, you understand. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Anyways, so they were hesitant to hire Courtney because they didn't know if she could play a role like Gail, who's a bitch. But it's so cool to watch her in Friends and then watch her in this because that girl switches up and she killed the role of Gail. Courtney, please watch this. I love you.
We love you, Courtney. As someone that is a longtime Scream fan, I fucking love Courtney Cox so much.
Yes, and I was already a Friends fan, so she just has a deeper place in my heart now.
And see, I've only watched a couple of episodes of Friends, or a couple of clips that Hannah has showed me, but I'm sorry, I don't think that the show is very funny. I'm not a sitcom person, that's why. But Courtney Cox, love you.
She did giggle at one part that I showed her.
I did giggle slightly.
Oh, I think you're right.
I think you're right. So then Kenny was taking a little minute.
I love Kenny.
Kenny was taking a little bit because, he's a bit of a thick boy. And Gail tells him, "Kenny, I know you're about 50 pounds overweight. But when I say hurry, please interpret that as move your fat tub of lard ass now!" One of my favorite parts of the whole entire movie. So Sydney,
not Jesus.
My name ain't Jesus. So Sydney's at the police station and Dewey's telling her that they couldn't find her dad. He wasn't checked in at the hotel, but they're gonna find him. Everything is fine.
Which at this point, I guessed that the dad was involved somehow.
And I was like, oh, good guess. Good guess.
Good job.
I think you're right.
Good. Oh, I think you're right.
And so Billy's being interrogated with his fucking wolf man looking dad. Did that man look like a wolf or was it just me? Who? The dad. So it's the guy that was sitting next to...
Sydney's dad?
No. Billy's dad. The guy that was sitting next to him.
Yes! He looked like a wolf!
He looked like a wolf. I've always thought he looked like a wolf. He looked like a wolf! And Billy's trying to convince the sheriff that he didn't kill anyone, but the sheriff tells him that he has to be held until they get the phone records. Outside of the station, Gail is serving in that lime green fit.
Yes!
And she's like, "We're gonna get in this bitch." And she's walking.
Nobody else could pull that off besides Courtney Cox.
That is a lie. There is one other person that can serve looks like that.
Who?
Jennifer Jolie in the third one.
Okay.
Jennifer's my girl.
Okay, no, you're right.
Jennifer is my second favorite character.
She really could have pulled that off. She
did.
Could've. I take it back.
She did.
I take it back, Jennifer.
Yes, whenever they go into
Oh, I forgot.
Hold on. We're gonna. Yeah, I was gonna say she wore it in the third one whenever Gail shows up to the studio.
I forgot about that.
Yes.
She did kill that.
She fucking killed it. Jennifer Jolie. Ooh, what's her name? Parker Posey. I fucking love you, Parker Posey. You are my second favorite character. Right underneath Joel. Like, not even, like, probably 0.1 off from being favorite.
Cece?
You said what?
What about Cece?
Cece,
She really, girl.
She is my girl, and I love Sarah Michelle Gellar, but she's probably like number 4 or something. I named my dog after her.
She has such a small, like, little
she
part
has,
that
yes, and it's because she was also filming Buffy the Vampire Slayer during this, and so she couldn't be on set that much, which is completely understandable. Sarah Michelle Gellar, I also love you, and your husband's podcast, fire. I've listened to every single episode of it. It's what was it? That's not so scary. No, that's wrong. That was pretty scary. Yes, that's a great podcast. You should listen to it, Hannah. Has Freddie Prinze Jr. on it. Do you know who that is? Oh my God. Have you ever seen the live action Scooby Doo movie?
Oh.
He plays Fred.
Yes.
Dude, there was this post that I saw on Facebook, and it was like, if she don't know what this is, she's too young. And it was the fucking disco ball
Matthew
thing.
Lillard is Shaggy.
Yes, but it's the disco ball looking thing, but it's actually like the skull head that was in the movie, the Scooby Doo movie. And every single time I see anything from that movie, all I hear is the fucking main menu music.
Yes. And I would recognize that.
I just have to pull up the fucking music.
That movie was always up at our lake house for whatever reason.
It's like my second thing.
One time, we always had this up at the lake house, like the movie.
Yes.
And then we'd fall asleep.
And you wake
and then
up
we'd go
in the
back
middle
to the
of the
menu
night.
and it's still going.
It was, okay, I would fall asleep watching that, and I would fall asleep. This is so wild. War of the Worlds. Have you ever seen War of the Worlds? Okay, it has Tom Cruise and Dakota Fanning in it. Great movie. One of my all-time favorites. But I would always fucking fall asleep to that, and the main menu would come up, and it's like a duh, duh, like in the background, and it just grows louder and louder, and I wake up and I'm like, what the fuck is that noise? And be like, duh. Okay, we went on a tangent.
Excuse us.
Tatum finds Sydney and basically tells Dewey that they are going now. And he says, what did Mom tell you? When I wear this badge, you treat me like a man of the law.
That part,
and she
we
says,
just cried. And she says, I'm sorry, Deputy Dewey boy, but we are ready to go now.
I love Tatum.
That part was so funny. We were just crying laughing.
Yes.
He's like, what did Mom say?
What did Mom tell you? And so in the back of the station, Dewey goes and gets the car, and Gail made her way to the back door, doing her Gail things. And Sydney asks how the book is going, and she says, oh, it's going well. I'll send you a copy. And bam! Bitch went down. Sydney punched the fuck out of her.
By the way, Gail was writing a book about the murder of Sydney's
Yes, I failed to mention that. She was writing the Woodsboro murders is what it was called.
And she's trying to keep the guy who they ended up arresting, like she thinks that he's innocent.
Yeah. Let's see. So transition into Tatum's room, and the girlies are sitting there chit-chatting, and the phone rings for Sydney. But also, who the fuck just has 2 beds in their bedroom? I have never understood that. Maybe it's because I did not grow up very wealthy, but who just has 2 twin beds in their room? Don't make no damn sense to me.
Unless you got 2 people in there.
Right, it's not like she got a sister. It's not like she got a sister. The bed's just set up and everything. Whenever I was little, we had air mattresses and pallets. Like, and so the person on the phone, of course, is Mr. Seductive, Sexy Killer Voice. And he's like, you framed the wrong guy.
Hi, Sydney.
Again. Hi, Sydney. And so we transition into the morning, and Sydney is having a little bit of brekkie. And there's a newscast talking about Cotton Weary, who was the man that was convicted of killing Sydney's mom. And he was put on death row for it. And Dewey turns off the TV, and he tells Sydney that Billy was released due to his phone records being clean. Okay, whatever. Sure. Sydney and Tatum go back to school, and Sydney is hounded by the one and only Linda fucking Blair. Have you ever heard of The Exorcist?
Yes.
Linda Blair played Reagan, the little girl, in the original Exorcist movie.
Okay.
And they got her to come in and just do a quick little cameo as the person who's like, how does it feel to be almost brutally butchered? The people want to know. They have a right to know. How does it feel? And then Dewey's like, she just wants to get an education. I know every part of this movie, y'all. I'm so sorry.
Dewey saying that cracks me up. Like, she just wants to get an education. He really thought he did something with that.
He really
and
did.
His other one. Remember what Mom said? When I'm wearing a badge, you treat me like an officer of law.
And so Sydney ends
so
up...
funny.
Sydney ends up going to see Gail and goes to talk to her. And I just have to say, them up close shots, whenever there's like talking back and forth to each other, iconic. Anytime you see that,
Yes.
I'm like, Scream. It was Scream that did that. And
It's so good.
Sydney calls her book bullshit, and then Gail openly admits to supporting Cotton and doesn't think that he's guilty of the murder. And Gail says that his story never changed and that he had sex with Maureen and then left. And Sydney is trying to be confident in saying that she thinks that Cotton's guilty, but Gail like continues to like question her about it. And Gail thinks that Sydney is not very confident in her answer. And Sydney walks away, and she's talking to Kenny. Gail's talking to Kenny. And she's like, oh my gosh, an innocent man on death row. Kenny, do you know what this means? More money on my book sales. She is so fucking greedy, but I love it. I'm like, girl, get your bag. She has to be a Taurus, because us Tauruses, we love our money. And I can see it. I can see it. We're cutthroat, but we're also like, where's my fucking bag?
Recently, like, whenever we say Gail, or, like, whenever I think of Gail, I can't get those stupid bangs out of my head. Like, I can't picture her without them now.
My God, those
it's
fucking
so
bangs.
awful. We'll
those
get
fucking
to
bangs.
that.
We'll get to it.
There will be a tangent on that.
Yes, absolutely.
On the bangs.
And so Sydney and Tatum and Stu are in the hallways, and people are just running around, acting crazy in the ghost face costumes and shit. And Stu is like, it's like Christmas. I love this man so much. And Sydney runs off, having total main character energy. Oh my God. She does like that like arm flail sort of thing. I just can't take it. And she runs into Billy, and Billy's trying to persuade her that he's not the killer. And he ends up blaming their issues, like, within their relationship to her mom dying, which is very fucked up.
She's basically like, you should be over it. Like,
yes,
have sex with me.
Exactly. And as someone who has lost a parent, of course, not in that tragic of way, as someone who's lost a parent, like, it's really hard to, like, get into, like, relationships and stuff. And it's really hard to, like, be able to even just give that type of energy. So
Especially when everyone was calling her mom a whore, and now she's reluctant to, like, fuck Billy.
Exactly.
You know?
And, like, even her, I commend her for even being able to give that type of energy into a relationship, because it's been almost 2 years for me and I can barely even do it. But anyways, he compares her mom's death to his mom leaving, and Sydney's like, your mom left town. She isn't lying in a casket somewhere. And then she like runs off, and he's like, oh my God, I'm so fucking stupid. And then in the principal's office, 2 dudes are being berated by Principal Hembry, which was played by the Fonz, Henry Winkler. And he expels the students, and they say that it's not fair. And then he says, fairness would be to rip your insides out, gut you, and hang you up so everyone can see you for the heartless, desensitized little shits that you are.
Like, Fonzie, calm down.
Oh, I love that he berates the fuck out of them. Honestly, a whole bunch of
Ain't
motherfucking kids.
To be on Happy Day?
No, a whole bunch of motherfucking kids need to hear some shit like that. Because
right, like, why are you running around in the costume the day after the murder?
Well, it was like 2 days. It was 2 days after the murder, but still, like, why are you doing
still,
that?
That's so
another student was attacked. Like, come on now.
And it's at your own school. Like, It's not even something you just heard about. Like, it's at your school.
Exactly. It's not like it's the fucking next county over. That's okay. Like, I hear that someone dressed up as fucking Freddy Krueger. I'll show up to school dressed up as Freddy Krueger. Hey, like, shit. But come on now. That's very, very rude. And so Sydney's in the bathroom, and 2 girls are talking mad shit, but they're fucking ugly anyways, and they need to be talking about their damn selves.
The outfit.
Especially that girl with her pants that were hiked up to her fucking titties.
Them khaki pants.
Oh my god, those khaki pants.
No.
And then like the sort of like lilac purplish shirt. Like, I really can't talk about the other girl because I was cheerleading outfit, whatever. Like, she was ugly with that pink ass lipstick though.
Yes.
And her attitude, not cute, ugly as fuck. They're up there calling her mom a whore and stuff, and they're saying that Sydney was probably the murderer and this and that. And they
girl,
leave.
pull your pants out your butt crack and get out the bathroom.
Whenever she's walking out, you can see that her pants are hiked up into her ass.
Yes, but it's not even like if you wear your pants up in your ass, like, whatever, it's cute. But hers were, like, up to her
titties.
Ribs. Like, yes, literally. They were resting under her tits.
And so they leave the bathroom, and poor Sydney is just all sad and shit. And she ends up getting attacked and runs out of the bathroom. And I read that that's...
Wait, doesn't she see the shoes?
Yeah, she sees the shoes, and she just kind of gets attacked. But I read that that was not an actual attack, that was just a prank. So...
Again,
take it
so insensitive.
Yeah, take it like it is. It was probably a prank. And so we're now outside, and Gail is talking to Dewey, and shit is heating up between them. You can tell there's a little bit of chemistry, and Dewey ends up slipping a few times, saying how they haven't found Neil, Sydney's father, and that he hasn't been ruled out as a suspect yet. And the principal comes over the intercom and is like, I've suspended all classes, and there's now a curfew of 9 p.m. Which reminds me of the pandemic.
Too much.
You remember the fucking curfews? That was awful.
Yes.
I was so scared to go outside. I'm like, they're going to arrest me. I feel like I'm in high school again.
Right.
Because I don't know about other places, but, like, our city has a minor curfew. Mm-hmm. I think ours was, like...
I can say back in high school now.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh! I'm old.
But, yes, back whenever I was in high school, it was 10 o'clock. And then I think it actually recently got changed to 11.
It's been 11 until you're 18.
Yeah. Whenever I was in high school, it was 10. But I guess it went down. Lucky y'all. But I was still out. I don't give a fuck. I was out with my sister. She was older than me, and we were just out.
Imagine being 17 and having to be home by 11. Jake. Actually. Jake, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
And so Sydney and Tatum are walking home, and Stu catches up to them and says that he's having a party, an intimate gathering with intimate friends, and Sydney and Tatum agree to go. And Principal Hembry is now having fun with the mask that he confiscated, and someone knocks at the door real quick. And so he goes to investigate. Nobody's there.
This part is so funny, just watching him look out and there's nobody.
And so he goes out there to investigate. He doesn't find anyone, so he goes back into his office. But then someone knocks again, and he goes out to investigate. He leaves the office, and he opens up, like, the actual, like, office door. And he's like, you little shits! And then he sees a man down the hallway. It's the janitor. He's like, what did you call me? And that's actually Wes Craven
Who was going to
himself.
tell me that? That's so cool. I had no idea.
That was Wes Craven himself. And he was dressed up as Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street. And so the Fonz is like, you little shits. Oh, nothing, Fred, which he actually calls him Fred. And he goes back to his office, and bada bing, motherfucking bada boom, Ghosty pops out, and
I thought you were gonna call him Ghosty Pop, and I was like, okay.
Ghosty pops out and cuts him a little bit.
He cuts him a little bit,
and he's wasted.
If you don't get that, go back.
Go back and listen. Gosh. He gets cut a little bit, and he gets hoisted. And so transition. He gets wasted. Transition to Sydney and Tatum listening to School's Out for Summer by Alice Cooper. And it's so 90s with those big ass speakers and that big ass stereo.
I just love it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm so here for it. I always wanted to do that.
The whole party scene is just so, like, it's so good. It's so good.
I always wanted to listen to music outside whenever I was younger, but we didn't have a second level to put the speakers on the roof, and so I was really depressed about it. And so they're discussing whether or not Cotton and Maureen were actually having an affair, and Sydney blames Gail for the rumors, and Tatum is like, you know, there was talk about other men, not just Cotton, and Sydney gets kind of upset at Tatum because Tatum believes the quote-unquote rumors, but the rumors are the truth. What? What did you say?
I said, even though they're true.
Right, the rumors are fucking true. And Sydney's doubting whether or not the killer's still out there. And they go inside, and we see Ghosty just lurking around in the fucking woods. Weird. Real suspicious, sir. And we transition to the video store. Frankenstein is playing. And Stu just kind of startles Randy a little bit while Randy's working.
This scene is so good.
And Stu asks if Randy's coming to the party, and he says, well, of course, I get off early. And Matthew Lillard is just looking mighty fine in that little tan shirt. I'm like, hey, boy, how you doing? Holla at your motherfucking girl.
I can't unsee him as Shaggy sometimes.
I don't know, I automatically
That
see
just
him.
kills it for me.
The thing about it, I saw this way before I saw the Scooby Doo movie, which does not make any sense at all.
I hate that I saw Scooby Doo first.
But yes, I saw this way before this and 13 Ghosts.
But like after
way before
seeing
Scooby
this,
Doo.
now I see him as Stu, which I'm glad because at first I would see him think, "Oh, that's Shaggy."
Dude, just wait until we watch 13 Ghosts because
I'm so pumped.
even though his character's off the fucking wall in that movie, he is so fine in that movie.
He's so good at playing crazy people.
Yes, he is.
Because even Shaggy, a little
cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs up in there. And so Randy makes note that Billy is standing in the horror section talking to some other bitches, and Stu defends his BFF Billy.
They got a bromance, I know it.
Randy goes on a rant, and we get some iconic lines. There's always some stupid bullshit reason to kill your girlfriend, and there's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect. And then everyone just like goes quiet in the video store. I got secondhand embarrassment.
I was really suspicious of Randy right around this part. I never wasn't suspicious of Randy.
I was never suspicious of Randy.
I was always suspicious of Randy.
I was never suspicious
He knew
of
too
him.
much. He knew too much.
And so then we also learn that Randy has a crush on Sydney. Stu also points the finger at Neil. He's like, what about the dad? Da, 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 da. And Randy runs right into Billy. And Billy's like, how do we know you're not the killer? And basically makes Randy say, oh yeah, I would be the prime suspect if this was a horror movie. And we get that famous scene where Billy is all up in Randy's face. And then Stu is literally breathing down Randy's neck. And I remember at one point, Stu starts fucking with Randy's ear a little bit.
Yes, it's so funny. He's like leaning
Just
over,
playing
tickling
with
his
it.
ear. And hold on, we have to talk about how Billy just, like, for this, like, 90s vibe, Billy kills it, like, with the hair and the white t-shirt and the jeans. Like, he's giving 90s bad boy the entire time, and I love it.
I loved this era of men with, like, the fucking little hair. Like, I remember whenever Devin Sawa had his hair like that. Yes, like, greasy, just parted down the middle. Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Oh, my God. Do you know who that is?
Billy, I've heard the name.
Dude, he was a heart fucking throb.
Let me look him up and see if I recognize him, because I'm better with
He was
faces
on, like,
than
Home
names.
Improvement, if you ever watched Home Improvement.
What's his name?
Jonathan Taylor Thomas, JTT. I remember I had pictures of him on my wall, baby.
Oh, yeah, I
like,
definitely have seen that face.
He's, like, not hot anymore. Oh, God, he's only 5'5".
Oh.
Yeah, he's, like, not cute anymore, but he used to be. That was my boo.
Wait.
Oh, and, like, young Leonardo DiCaprio, like...
Yes, Billy had that vibe going.
Yes, the hair parted down the middle, plain-ass t-shirt, some jeans, like, ooh. Cue the montage where everyone is closing for curfew, which the curfew isn't until 9 p.m. and it looks like it's barely 7:30. That was just my observation. And Dewey ends up dropping the girlies off to go grocery shopping, but before that, they make a little bit of small talk, and they make a reference to The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which, have you ever heard about that? So that's a movie, and it's based off of some murders that happened down in Texarkana. And so there's that. There was this man, he had like a fucking bag over his head. I don't think it was ever solved. Like, it was like an actual true crime back in like, way back in like the 50s or something like that. But yeah, creepy ass shit. And so then Tatum makes the remarks of, if they made a movie about this, who would play Sydney? And Dewey's like, I see a young Meg Ryan myself. And then Sydney says, with just her luck, they would cast Tori Spelling. Which, remember that. Keep that in your noggin.
That and the door barricade.
Yes, door barricade and Tori Spelling as Sydney.
In lime green pantsuit.
And the lime green pantsuit. And Dewey's going to go talk to someone at the police department, and the girlies go do their shopping. They do a little chit-chat. Nothing's really important in all of this, to be honest. But between the girlies, we do get the line from Tatum, Billy and his penis do not deserve you. Iconic. Because he doesn't. Dewey is talking to the chief, and he tells Dewey that the phone calls came from Neil's phone, and he also reveals that tomorrow is the anniversary of Maureen's death. Also, this is just another observation, every single time the chief takes the drag of the cigarette, Dewey licks the ice cream cone.
It's so funny.
It's so funny. And then the chief puts his cigarette out, and we see his shoes. This was the first time that I noticed, like, the boots. They match the boots from the bathroom.
Yes, because I was like, because she had already told me, like, before the movie, she was like, it's not going to be any of the officers. But then I saw the boots, and I was like,
Maybe I'm just a liar. And so we transition to the third act. We see Kenny littering his burrito paper on the side of the road. And it's a house party at Stu's house. Dewey drops the girlies off, and he says that he's going to just be nearby and that you guys stay safe. And the party looks like your classic 90s school party, like house party. And people are standing around talking. The movie's on.
this scene, this is what was so iconic.
Yes, the movie's on. The music's on. There's beer everywhere. And in my opinion, I don't know about you, that just does not look like a lot of fun. I'm 26 years old. I don't want to stand around and drink beer with loud-ass music and movies that I can't even watch because the music's too loud.
Right, we gotta pick one. I think the party would be fun just because it's so nostalgic and, like, 90s. Like, I just love the party scene.
True.
But you can't play music and watch a movie.
No, not
Pick
at all.
one.
Not at all. But, you know, whatever floats their little 90s boats.
You know Randy be zoned in on that movie.
Oh, yeah. Randy's like me. I'm like, everyone shut the fuck
Randy's
up.
like standing right in front of us.
And we also see the two little fuckheads that got, not arrested. We see the two little fuckheads that got expelled from school. And Gail and Kenny pull up in the shadows, and then Dewey pulls up on them, and they chit-chat for a minute, and the chemistry right here is just so obvious.
Dewey trying to lay some on Gail.
Yes. Dewey is literally trying to get it in. And Dewey says that he's going to go check the party, and Gail's like, let me go with you, and she grabs a camera. Back at the party, they're discussing horror movies, and I don't know if you noticed this, LOL to the guy in the background that was rolling a joint.
Yes!
Did you see that guy? He was back there just rolling away. I'm like, good for you. Gail and Dewey show up, and Tatum is clearly pissed off at Dewey and tells him that he needs to leave along with Gail. And Gail ends up placing the little camera in there, and Tatum goes to the garage to grab some beers because just a few minutes ago, Stu asked her to go get some beers, and she's like, what am I, the beer wench? And this is where we get the iconic nippy shot. It's the only pair of real nipples that we see in this whole entire movie. Ain't no more
Tatum
titties or
looks
nothing.
so cute in the party scene.
She does look really cute. I don't understand why she thought that, like, greenish yellow shirt matched that skirt, but
she pulls off those
She
mixed match
does.
colors. Like,
She
she
does.
just seems like a mixed match colors girl.
yes, absolutely.
Another thing that I kept wondering during the scene, like, because she takes a while in the garage. We'll find out why. But I'm like, why is Stu not going to check on her?
Right.
Because, like, at this point, I'd kind of dropped my suspicion of Stu, but not all the way. But then he wasn't going to check on her, so I was even more, like, suspicious. Because, like, I'd be wondering why she's not coming back.
But also, he has a whole ass party to attend to.
True.
And also, Gail Weathers was there, too. He hasn't really
Right.
had any interaction with her. People think that she's hot, and so...
Right, because they were all like, ooh, whenever she walked in.
Ooh, Gail Weathers, ah!
But whenever, like, she didn't come back for that long,
Literally.
I was like, dude, go check on her.
And so then the door locks behind her, and she grabs the beers, and she, like, goes up to the door. It's locked. She tries knocking on it, and she ends up trying to just open up the garage, just leave out that way. That's smart. But then the garage stops, and it goes down, and she turns around, and there's our boy Ghosty. Ghosty's just standing there.
Ghosty Pop.
Ghosty Pop is just standing there, and she thinks that it's Randy playing a prank, and she's like, oh, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel, which I wish they would have kept her for the sequel.
I know, I know
that this is kind of like a little spoiler for this scene, but I wish she would have stayed in the sequel. He's dead-ass serious and won't let her leave, and he slices her arm a little bit. Big ouch. And Tatum puts up a fight.
I love, she's not even, like, her and Sydney, like, Sydney thought it was a joke, and then she just gets mad. They're not, like, scared, running around everywhere. Tatum gets mad.
Yes.
And she does her very best to escape, and I think she should have.
She does a pretty good job, but then she falls short when she tries to escape via the doggy door. No. Homegirl does not fit, and Ghosty ends up pressing the button that makes the garage door go up, and Tatum gets a little caught and ends up getting wasted. She dead now. Sorry, Tatum. Justice for Tatum.
So she's just hanging from the dog door from the garage, like, all crushed up.
It's so fucked.
It is.
And, like, where there's, like, a little part where it, like, shows her face being crushed. Ooh! I hate that part. And so then Ghosty returns to the party. Sydney's trying to find Tatum. People are starting to leave a little bit. And Billy Boy pops up. And they both end up going upstairs to quote-unquote talk.
Yeah.
Randy pulls up, and he's a little upsetty spaghetti that his chances with Sid are over. It's gone. And the whole time, this whole time, Matthew Lillard is straight up serving the performance of the lifetime. I'm so here for it. And Gail is back in the van at this point, and they see that the camera is set up, but they see that it has a 30-second delay on it.
Can he be eating Cheetos?
Right, he's out there eating his Cheetos. But remember the 30-second delay. Put that in your little noggin. Sydney and Billy are upstairs, and this is where they kind of start to, like, get it on a little bit. It's kind of slow and boring. They're just kind of talking.
And then she's finally just gives up, and so
she's like, he's like, why can't our lives be like a movie? And she says, or like a good porno.
Oh gosh, she tries to get spicy, and it's just not there.
Like I said, that scene is very slow and boring. I wish they would have just never even put it in there.
And they start to fuck, and then it goes black, and then whatever.
Well, they don't start fucking yet, but it just kind of like fades.
Well, you know what they about to do.
It fades. They go downstairs, and everyone is watching my favorite horror movie ever, Halloween. This is like the third time that it's mentioned in this movie.
Everyone's still just kind of around, and Randy is in it.
Yes.
Randy is focused on the movie.
And this is where Randy discusses the rules. Rule number 1, you can never have sex. Sex equals death. Number 2, no drinking or drugs. That is the sin factor. And rule number 3, never, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back. And then Stu then asks...
Tatum.
Yes, exactly. Stu then asks Randy if he wants a beer. And Randy's like, yeah, sure. And Stu says, I'll be right back. And everyone's like, ooh, and an ah, and, you know.
That part's so funny.
It is really funny.
Just the way he says it is so funny.
I'll be right back. And he has, like, big eyes, like, you know, ooh, look at me.
Stu's goofy.
I love Stu.
I love him. He's so goofy.
And so we switch back to Dewey and Gail. And Dewey asks Gail if she wants to join looking for a suspicious vehicle that was down the road. And Gail tells Kenny, I'll be right back. And Dewey says that they should just walk. And some weird music plays right here, making it seem like Dewey's the killer, which I never really suspected Dewey.
I don't think
Personally,
I did either.
I never really suspected him. They really tried hard to make him a red herring, but it's just like, you too goofy. I'm so sorry.
He's too, like the little nice guy.
Yes. And so people are still just kind of like leaving. Oh. Hazel's over here with her little tongue out. She's asleep.
She's asleep with
and
her
it's
tongue
so
just sticking
cute. So more people are leaving the party, and Sydney and Billy are like grinding on each other and making out, and it's intercut with the titty shot in Halloween. And, you know, blah, 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 they start fucking, okay? Just putting it out there. They start fucking. The phone starts ringing downstairs, and Randy answers it, and he's informed that the principal's dead. So he tells everyone, "Ayo, Principal Hembry's dead. Someone hung him up on the flag on the football field goal." And so everyone starts running out, and they're like, "Let's get there before they cut him down." Another sign of gross, desensitized little shits. The principal was correct. Like, why go see a dead body before it's been cut down? He'd been brutally murdered. And so Dewey and Gail start walking down the road, and as the kids are leaving, they damn near run them over, and Dewey and Gail fall into a ditch.
It's so funny.
They kiss.
I have to take a moment on when they fall, because Dewey is, like, such, like, just the nice guy, and he's, like, stupid, and it's funny. And whenever they fall, he's, like, on top of her, and he tries to do, like, the whole, I caught you, like, are you okay? But he just can't, but he's just like, are you okay? Like, it's so funny.
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
You okay? And so they kiss, and Gail kind of, like, looks over, and she sees the car that they were looking for. And it actually turns out that it's Neil's car. And so we go back to Sydney and Billy, and they're in their post-fucking era, brushing hair and putting on clothes. And Sydney asks who Billy called whenever he was arrested and put in jail. And Billy says that he called his dad. And Sydney's like, no, the sheriff called your dad. And Billy says that when he called, his dad didn't answer. And Billy's like, you know, do you still think I'm the killer? And Sydney's like, no, I don't think you're the killer, but if it was you, it would be a perfect way to get her off track by calling her and making her, you know, think that it wasn't him. And he looks mad serious and is like, what do I have to do to prove to you that I'm not the killer? Lo and fucking behold, Ghosty's right behind him and stabs him to death. And Sydney barely escapes. And there's this giant chase through this giant ass house. There's like, so like she like closes and locks the door, but then like Ghostface comes around from like the other side. This house is so confusing. There's like doors leading from one bedroom to another bedroom. It's fucking weird and I hate it. And Sydney makes her way to the attic, sort of looking room. I think it was an attic. And Ghosty comes in and Sydney kind of falls out the window onto a boat. And that's when she sees Tatum's dead body. And it's really sad because it's like, damn, imagine seeing your best friend dead, all just fucked up by a garage door.
No.
And she runs off. Meanwhile, Randy is drunk and chilling on the couch. He's watching Halloween all by himself.
This part is so funny. He's just like talking to himself, narrating the movie.
He says, Jamie, look behind you. And it's funny because the actor that plays Randy is Jamie Kennedy. So he's basically telling himself, look behind you, look behind you. And Ghosty's about to get him when Ghosty hears Sydney screaming outside. Sydney ends up surprising Kenny and is like, let me in. And Kenny shows her the camera and they see that Randy's about to get attacked. And so, poor Kenny. Kenny jumps out of the van to save Randy, and he remembers that there was a 30-second delay. And Ghosty pops out of nowhere.
That's terrifying. When you remember like, that part just gave me chills.
Ghosty pops out of nowhere and cuts his throat a little bit.
Not Kenny!
And Kenny is wasted. Sydney gets cut a little as well, but is able to escape for the time being. Dewey and Gail. Dewey be railing Gail. Dewey wanted to rail Gail. Dewey and Gail run up, and Dewey asks Gail to go and get help. Go and call for help with the phone that is located in the van. Dewey goes in the house, and it's intercut with noises from Halloween, like the screaming and stuff of Jamie Lee Curtis. Meanwhile, Dale gets in... Dale. I'm going to keep fucking up her name.
Dale, Rail, Gail, Mail.
Yes. Gail goes to the van, and Randy comes up, and she knocks his ass out, and she notices that there is blood on the fucking windshield. And
free Kenny.
Kenny slowly starts sliding down the windshield, And Gail starts driving like a maniac. This woman is off her fucking rocker at this point. And Kenny falls off. And she's like trying to drive. She's driving all crazy and shit. And she damn near runs Sydney over. Sydney's just out in the middle of the road. And she's like, help me. And Gail misses. But she ends up crashing the van. And we kind of think that she's dead at this point. Sydney makes her way back to the house. Which is dumb. Like, why would you go back to the house where you know there's a killer? Go down the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, go down the street. Go find somewhere else. And she's yelling for Dewey. He comes back out onto the front. He comes out of the front door. And he has been stabbed in the back. And the killer emerges and chases her to Dewey's vehicle. And she locks all of the doors and windows. But realizes that she doesn't have the keys to start the vehicle. Ghostface does. He kind of disappears for a second. And one by one, he unlocks all of the doors. The little radio inside of his car starts talking, and she's like, oh my God, please help me, please help me. But then, boom, motherfucker, Ghosty pops out from behind her. She did not think about the back door being unlocked. So he pops out, there's a bit of a tussle, and then he disappears. As she's out of the vehicle, she's going back to the house, Randy pops up. And then Stu pops up, and they're both like, he's the killer, no, he attacked me, he's the killer, yada. And they're just trying to convince Sydney that they're not the killer. And Sydney gets inside the house and basically is like, fuck both of you, and closes and locks the door, which, that was a very smart move.
Yes.
And Billy's stupid ass comes tumbling down the stairs, and he looks all cut up, he's all bloodied and shit. And he ends up convincing Sydney to give him the gun. And he lets Randy in. And poor Randy's all like, Stu's went crazy. I don't know what's going on. And Billy says, we all go a little mad sometimes. And fucking shoots Randy. He fucking shoots Randy. And Billy has been the killer all along. He wasn't even stabbed.
Right. Like, even, I was still not suspicious of him up to this point. Like, whenever he was still alive, and he convinced her to give him the gun, I was like, Sydney, why aren't you just believing him?
Exactly.
I would have been dead.
And Sydney tries to run away, but she runs right into Stu, and she's like, oh my God, please help me, please help me. But then Stu pulls out the voice changer and says, surprise, Sydney. It was Stu and Billy the entire time. I am so here for it.
When I think back on the kills,
surprise, Sydney.
When I think back on the kills and their stupid asses doing
yes,
it, that just
they're goofy asses. They're so goofy, and it's so fucking funny.
They're the most iconic killer duo.
Oh, for sure.
So funny.
For sure. And so Sydney pushes past them, and she's trapped in the kitchen. And Sydney yells, fuck you to Billy. And he says, no, we already played that game, remember? You lost. You stupid bitch. That's why you don't have pressured sex, okay? You could be fucking a serial killer. Like, let's keep it real. And Matthew Lillard is giving literally the performance of a lifetime. I've said it once, I'll say it again.
Because he was.
Serving. And Sydney says that they will never get away with this. And Billy says that, Cotton Weary, he was easy to frame, so what makes you think that we're not going to get away with this? Sydney asks why he killed her mother, and Billy says that, first, there is no motive. They did her mother a favor. She was a slut, you know what I'm saying? But then he says, her mother was fucking his dad, and that's the reason why his mom left town. And abandoned him. I was abandoned. Poor Billy. Bitch, shut the fuck up. Parents leave all the time. That's not an excuse to be an asshole and kill people.
Right.
But at that point, I did notice Stu looked very surprised. I don't think he actually knew that.
I think Stu thought they was just goofing around.
Yeah, I think Stu was just like, peer pressure.
Kill people? Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. And so Stu then says that he has a surprise, and it's gonna be a scream, baby. Roll credits. And the surprise is Neil. He has been tied up, and he's gonna be basically
Sydney's dad.
Yeah, Neil, Sydney's dad. and he's basically going to be used as a scapegoat. They already have his phone cloned. All the like phone records go back to his name, and he has so much evidence on him that like it'll all work out in the end. And so Billy and Stu starts fucking stabbing each other, and they're so sick. Like, you can tell that Billy is just really enjoying stabbing his friend. But then
it's so funny too at the same time.
It is. Stu doesn't look like he's enjoying it that much up until he stabs Billy back, because I think he's just like, haha, bitch, you stabbed me too deep, I'm gonna stab you too deep, look at you now.
Right, because they're trying to like make themselves look like
they're victims.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're just stabbing each other.
It's
so sick, but so funny.
Yeah, he smiled and giggled at one point. I was just like, look at him. He looks so happy.
He's goofy.
And then Stu is just like yelling and spitting and shit. And Billy is like stabbing the fuck out of him up until Stu is like, you gotta stop. I'm feeling a little woozy here. Billy tells Stu to go get the gun, but it's not there.
This is my favorite part. Stu says, Houston, we have a problem here.
And Gail pops up all of a sudden. Surprise, motherfucker, it's Gail. And she's like ready to shoot them. But her dumb ass doesn't realize that the safety is still on. And so Billy knocks her the fuck out, basically. And as he's about to shoot her in the head, Stu goes back to the kitchen to grab Sydney to be like, oh, you have to watch this bitch die. But guess what? Sydney and her daddy ain't there. They done disappeared. And so they get a phone call, and Stu says, should I let the machine answer it? Billy answers instead, and Sydney says that she just called the police, and Stu is like, I've been cut too deep. I think I'm dying. And so Billy hands the phone to Stu so he can try to look for her. And Sydney asks Stu what his motive is, and he says, peer pressure. I'm far too sensitive.
It's so funny.
And Billy snatches the phone, and he's like, where the fuck are you? And ends up throwing the phone at Stu. And he says, you hit me with the phone, dick.
It's so funny.
Which, that was actually improvised. Skeet Ulrich was like on the phone, and his hand slipped, and it got thrown at Matthew Lillard, and he literally was like, you hit me with the phone, dick. And they just kept it in. I love it so much.
It's so funny.
Billy is going through the house, ripping shit up to find Sydney, and Stu gets back on the phone and asks if she really called the police, and she says yes. And Stu says,
he goes, my parents are gonna be so mad at me. It's so funny.
I swear, like, this whole ending part, all of that, I would not be surprised if it was all improvised, like, in all honesty, because it's just so fucking funny.
And it's so chaotic.
Very chaotic. And so Billy decides to go check the closet, and boom, Sydney pops out. She's dressed as Ghosty and stabs him twice with the end of an umbrella, which, goddamn, if you've ever seen the Another anime, it's giving very much the Umbrella vibes in that TV show. So if you know, you know. Which we have to watch that if you're into anime.
No.
Oh my god, it's so good.
I'm sorry, I'm not an anime girl.
Okay, so I'm not an anime person either, but there are a couple that like I've just really enjoyed. But this was the first one I ever watched. It's a horror one.
Okay.
And it's really good. It's not for kids. Like, it is nowhere near for kids. It's so gory. It's really good. But anyways, Billy ends up getting knocked the fuck out, and Stu emerges, and he's up there screaming and yelling, and they get into a tussle. And poor Stu is on the floor, and he's been hit in the head with a vase, and he's like, you bitch. And Sydney throws the big ass TV on him, and this is where I do not agree with the movie. I guess he's electrocuted to death. I call bullshit, because you clearly see this man breathe.
We saw him breathe.
I saw Stu breathe.
Wes. We saw him breathe.
We saw him breathe. I am calling to you in the spirit realm. We saw this man breathe, okay? And so to the creators that are going to be doing Scream 7, please bring Stu back. He deserves.
We need Stu.
He deserves to be back. Matthew Lillard, you're coming back. I can feel it in my bones. And so Sydney walks back up to Billy, and Randy emerges, but is quickly knocked the fuck out by Billy. And we get yet another little tussle between Sydney and Billy. But Sydney gains the upper hand, and Billy then gets shot one time by Gail. Gail's like, surprise motherfucker, it works better without the safety on, you bastard. And Sydney, Gail, and Randy all gather up around Billy. And Randy says, careful, this is the moment when the supposed dead killer comes back for one last scare. And Billy awakens, but then boom, he is shot dead in the head by Sydney. And she's like, not in my movie, bitch.
Her!
Parrot poo. And poor Neil pops out of the closet. Look what I put. I put Nail pops out of the closet. Neil pops out of the closet, and we fade out to an exterior shot. Dewey is actually alive and well. Hell yeah.
Go Dewey!
Go Dewey. We love you, Dewey. And Gail is out there doing her little news story, and there's this beautiful drone shot of the farmhouse with the rolling hills behind it, and we fade into the credits. And Scream's over. Bye. No, I'm kidding. We had
That'll be the end of today's episode.
We had a kill count of 7, and y'all should be proud of me because I wasn't even gonna do a kill count, and I just counted just off the top of my head and then Googled it, and I was correct.
She was
So proud of myself.
Time for the ratings.
So my personal ratings for the actors, I'm giving it a 10 out of fucking 10 because I have heard some like other people, I can't think of them off the top of my head, that was supposed to play these characters, and I just feel like it wouldn't have been nearly as good with different characters. Or actors, I should say. The characters I'm giving 10 out of fucking 10. They're all really, really likable. There's not a single person in there that I was just like, oh my gosh, I really just can't stand that character, you know? Score and cinematography, I'm gonna give it, I have it in my notes as a 9, but I might actually knock that down to about an 8 because there have been a couple more movies that I've seen. Like I watched another one not too long ago, and like the score of it just sounds very similar to other scores. And so, yeah, there's that. Cinematography wise, like it's good, but it's not something that I haven't already seen, you know? So that's an 8 out of 10. The plot, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. The only reason why is because I have some questions of how the killers were in particular spots at particular times. I have a little bit of confusion behind that. But overall, out of 10, I'm giving this an 8. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. What? Hannah looks so shocked.
I disagree. This is my favorite so far.
Dude, I've seen way more horror movies than you have. And I have seen the sequels. And I'm not saying that this is not a perfect movie. It almost is a perfect movie. But Scream 6, I have to say, Scream 6 is really fucking good. And like by then, they have the actual formula of how a Scream movie should go, and they go off the fucking rails with it, and I love it a lot. Like, that's awesome. Sorry.
My ratings, I gave the actors a 10 out of 10. I love all of them. Characters, also a 10 out of 10. They're so, like she said, they're very likable, and it's funny. It's the perfect amount of scary, but funny. They're very, like, dynamic characters. Score, I'm gonna give like a 7 or 8. I didn't even really notice it or pay that much attention.
There's some like, I really, really like the Red Right Hand song. Like that's a really iconic, anytime I hear it, I think of Scream. But then, like you said, there's not that thing of like how it is with Michael Myers, the you know, like that classic, or like the Jason, the like, there's just not that with Scream, but there is the Red Right Hand, so.
Right. Cinematography, as far as quality, it's just, you can tell it's old. But I gave it a 10 out of 10 because that just gives me that super nostalgic feeling. Like, whenever they go to fight or stab, you can just so tell that it's acting, but it's, like, it's great. I just love it. Plot, I put 9 out of 10 because I really liked the plot, but it was a little bit confusing with some of the plot holes. Like she said, it was really confusing to, like with the scene where Randy and Stu come up and they're like, he's the killer. Yeah. And then Billy, like, I'm just confused on how some of that happened. But I really liked it. And then overall, I gave it a 1,000 out of 10 because it's my favorite so far. Again, I'm a newbie.
We need to get you on Letterboxd so people can see, like, your Letterboxd rating. They do it out of 5.
Right.
I'm on there.
I need to.
Yeah, y'all should follow me on there. The link is going to be in the description below. So, anyways, we want to thank you guys so much for listening. It has been a ride today with Scream, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And so next week, we will be covering Scream 2 from 1997, my birth year. Let's go. And I'm really pumped for that. Like, I know I just said that the 6th one was, like, really, really good and almost as good as the original one. But the second one, like, coming out of the original 3, like, that's what I grew up with. The 4th one didn't come out until I was in high school. So, like, that core 3 out of those 3, the second sequel, but then there's that 3rd one. And I know everyone hates the 3rd one.
It was actually really good.
I'm not going to give away any spoilers just in case nobody has seen it. But the killers in that one.
Crazy.
Whoo. Lastly, I just want to mention again before we go, we do have all of our social media linked in the description below, along with our link tree. Our link tree has all of our links as well. I just also want to mention again our listener support. If you would like to support us monetarily, you can do that. You don't have to if you don't want to, but we would really, really appreciate it. It would go towards getting some new equipment, and like I said in the last episode, we could be able to set up 2 microphones, which would make life so much easier. Because damn, I love doing this, but my back hates it.
Killing.
Lastly, our subscription poll. If you want subscriptions, please go back to the People Under the Stairs episode. Give that a yes. If you don't want to see it, go back to that episode and hit no. We want to know how you guys feel. Yeah, but don't do that. You know you want a subscription.
You know you want to hear some true crime and some white chicks and some other movies.
Yes, you want to hear a scary movie. You know what I'm saying? You want to hear my thoughts about Pulp Fiction. Hannah's never seen Pulp Fiction. Like, come on now.
I want to hear my thoughts on that.
Yes, it's a great movie. It's a great movie. I have, like I said, a fucking list of stuff that we could cover on there. So if you want those subscriptions, if you want those extra episodes, go back to the People Under the Stairs episode. Click yes.
And we do have, next week, like we said, we'll be releasing Scream 2. And next week we have a big announcement.
Yes, you will not want to miss next week's episode. Huge announcement.
And we have some really exciting plans for our layout of episodes till, especially October.
Oh yes, we know that October is coming up. The spooky season. Guess what? Okay, for me it is already spooky season. It stays spooky season in my household.
I want it to be cold so I can wear sweaters and watch scary movies and eat chili.
We were just talking about this at work, how we just want it to be cold. I'm ready to wear hoodies. I'm ready to wear my leggings and my boots. And I'm ready to just chill out, eat some fucking soup, some fucking chili, and watch some horror movies.
Yes.
So ready for it.
But we have some really exciting episodes coming for y'all during October, and y'all better be ready.
And we might have a little special episode coming out for Halloween, so keep your eye out on that. We got some ideas, y'all.
We got some stuff in the works, so make sure to stay tuned, and thank you guys for listening.
Yes, thank you guys so much, and we will see you next week. Bye!